What is the scariest story you know that is 100% true? Homeless people managing to secretly live in people's attics, cupboards, inside a wall. Here's one such story. This was probably a story on the news, but my dad's co-workers came across materials to make a bomb in someone's luggage at the airport he works at. It turns out there was a suicidal IT student that wasn't planning on hurting anyone. He just wanted to assemble the bomb when he got to his destination and then try to kill himself. I heard that has doing better now, but it's still pretty scary. Had a girl over for a date. We woke up the next morning, and heard a young girl laughing hysterically in my living room. There was no one in that fucking living room, but we both heard it. I lived with my deadbeat mom for a little bit in an apartment paid for by somebody else. We had no furniture, and slept on the floor for the most part. I once woke up to a group of strangers wandering around our apartment in the middle of the night. They broke in while we were sleeping, looked around, took nothing of the little we had, and left. I never told my mom. Honestly, looking back on it, they were probably people that my mom was involved with at one point or another. Lamau. The story of the Yuba County Five young men go missing. Their car is found in working condition high on a mountain road where they had no reason to be. 3 are eventually found dead in the mountains. 1 is found dead in a ranger's cabin, having starved to death. The 5th has never been found. This happened in 1978. I read about it 2 summers ago and slept with my lights on for weeks. Something about this just absolutely terrifies me. Former coworker of my brother put mercury, the metal, into his milkshake when no one was looking to try to kill him. He was caught, but apparently there was no motive other than it was something he wanted to do. No animosity or jealousy towards my brother. I went to pour some chocolate syrup out for chocolate milk and a centipede crawled out. My friend has a carpeted kitchen and bathroom and it is horrifying. By God, the horrors I have witnessed. Unit 731, a World War II Japanese unit that experimented on captives, including forced pregnancy, vivisections on children, experiments with frostbite and gangrene. The limits of what humans are capable of is pretty terrifying. Ed Gein. Growing up in a neighboring county, you would always hear the stories about the horrific things he did. Everyone is still shocked from the memory that it even happened. And no one ever brings it up in the town it happened in, but you can tell by looking at someone from Plainfield that they know, they're trying to forget. I walked in the creepiest way. I would only mumble odd words with my eyes wide open and unblinking. Creepy things I've done when sleepwalking include peeing weird places that aren't a bathroom, standing in front of my parents' bed, and walking out of the house and standing in the middle of the street looking up into the sky. The Elisa Lam story. Woman goes missing at a hotel, they search the whole hotel. Or at least, they think they do. A few days later the hotel guests start complaining of off-color, bad-tasting water and low water pressure. Yep, she was decomposing in the water tank. One night, about 2 or 3 years ago, I got up from my chair in the living room to use the restroom. The hallway was dark. I turned the corner to see a figure, which looked like a little girl with black hair and a white dress that almost touched the floor, for about 2 seconds before disappearing. I was freaked out but didn't think much of it. Maybe I'm just tired, I thought to myself. I turned the light on in the hall and went along with what I was doing. Never happened again. I also woke up another morning with scratch marks on my back, arms, legs, etc. Waking up to a drunk crackhead mistakenly entering your house at 2 in the morning, 2 days after your wife dies, when you have a 3-month-old. Dude was so lucky he dropped into the fetal position as I rounded the corner with a bat and no contacts in. On the plus side, he was my yard guy for quite a few years after that. Scariest TV I've ever seen was the documentary miniseries Auschwitz on PBS. What was horrifying was the interviews with a man who was an SS guard there. He had no remorse. He remembered it fondly for the camaraderie. And he disliked Holocaust deniers because they said the Nazis were not capable of killing that many people. He was insulted they called the Nazis incompetent. He was not remorseful. He was upset people thought they weren't capable of committing mass murder on such a scale. Flushed face. I was in my room sleeping and my closet opened with a creak and I looked over and saw my shoe fall off the rack it was on, and so I turned my light on and no one was there, so I went back to bed with my light on. There's a mentally unstable person residing in the White House. When my mom was a little girl, 2 men broke into the house in the middle of the night. They came into my mom's room, touched her, and left. She went to tell my grandma about it and she told her it was just a dream and to go back to bed. The next morning the contents of my grandma's purse were scattered and all the money stolen. They came through the front door because it was unlocked. She always locked the doors at night now. ExxonMobil and other oil tycoons have been jumping in the bandwagon to turn climate change into a political issue, delaying the public's eventual acceptance of the hypothesis that burning fossil fuels contributes to climate change. That one South American serial killer that murdered and raped hundreds of children had lured them away with a promise of work or similar, usually into the woods. I believe he was also released and his location is unknown. The Equidome, a satanic mysterious old World War II plant that refused to die. http://www.stateofhorror.com/Equidome. HTML. To be honest, any of those weird state books are f'd up. This is my favorite though. Basically anything about the Chernobyl disaster. Even when the recent miniseries made some changes, it's still pretty unsettling. One night I was sleeping and then I woke up and my drink falls over. I look over and see a shadow fly across the room. I leave the TV on at night and that shadow past it, the screen literally froze. I grab my cross necklace and run out of the room. My brother comes back from the bathroom and asks me what the hell I'm doing. I was so scared I couldn't speak actual words. I eventually get my nerve and head back in and clean up the mess that stupid fucking ghost made. Get another drink and go back to bed. I also used to get sleep paralysis in that room. Weird thing is it hasn't since I was in high school. And that's how much college will cost for Maggie. My sister died the same date that an Ouija board made out of a pizza box predicted twice. Don't FK with that stuff, kids. There was this fella in America. He was driving along and he saw a bright light in the sky. He got out to look at it for a second and it vanished. Then he got back in the car and you'll never guess what. He had a beard. Then he got home and said to his wife, "Bit weird. I just got out the car to look at a bright light and I got back in the car and I grew this beard." And she said, "Never mind your beard, where have you been for 3 days?" That some lady that lives in our house before we moved in almost died when she locked herself in the attic. An exorcism and the events leading up to it. A possession occurred in an individual. There are real ones that are pretty rare. When a real one happens, things happen to prevent a priest to get to the location. In this case I knew the priest and nun, had master's degree in ancient languages, working this exorcism. Exorcism was 20 to 25 miles away. All 4 tires mysteriously popped all at once. The next attempt in a different vehicle, the gas tank went empty twice for a 25-mile trip. I'm not a big religious person but exorcisms scare me. That one story about people living in crawl spaces. Have you ever heard of the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? My most terrible story was breaking my arm when I was jumping over the fence when I was teaching a friend Naruto run. BTW terrible because my hand remained in the fence and contorted. That story is mine. I've witnessed poltergeists. Doors open and close on their own. Footsteps from nobody, etc. It's terrifying. Most of the time I don't sleep with the light on but I felt that if I didn't I was gonna not be asleep. The story of John Jones. The man who got stuck in the Nutty Putty cave and died from his blood filling up his lungs and head. He was stuck head first, almost like standing on your head. The cave has been sealed up but his body is still in there since they of course couldn't get him out. Gives me shivers. A guy who slowly died in a slant toilet while doing a through hike. Snowbound. The firefighters dying slowly from radiation burns and poisoning, the melting reactor, the evacuation of an entire city. The whole story. And it's not some urban legend or unsolved mystery. Vacation in Italy, and burglars broke into my house and stole our car and some other belongings. However, what freaks me out about this is, I was sharing a small room with my sisters. Due to the beds the room was just enough to walk through. The burglars came through our window, sneaked through the room. They must have been not more than a meter away. I can't imagine what they would have done if any of us would have woken up. We weren't older than 10 years. I read like 5 posts at night and I'm already getting nightmares. I should not be here because I'm about to go to bed. When one of the Oakland County child killers going victims was kidnapped, the boy's parents went on TV to beg for his release. They said that when their child was returned to them, they'd give him his favorite meal, Kentucky Fried Chicken. When his body was found, the autopsy showed that had been fed fried chicken before his death. Russia hacked the US 2016 election, and now we have a con man in the White House. We are slowly destroying our planet and no one is doing much about it. A woman was accidentally exposed to 2 drops of organic mercury which seeped through her plastic gloves in a lab. According to medical staff, she was fully conscious and aware as the mercury destroyed her central nervous system, dying after weeks of agony. This is the reason why, when working with mercury, scientists double glove. I grew up one day, and had to get a job and take care of myself. One by one, my loved ones slowly drifted away or died off. And at the end, I will die. I swear to God this is a true story. Nothing can top this. 100% true that on a dark and stormy night, A man bit into a slice of pizza and all of the cheese and toppings slid right off. Got goosebumps just typing it. I used to see a man, a dark figure at the end of the hall, right as you turn around. I'd see it so clearly for a second, even two sometimes, then it was gone. I'd hear it walking towards me from behind, then turn and there he was. Happened probably 8 to 10 times in my old apartment. Scariest thing was other people in the building had seen it, too. I never described it and had 2 other tenants tell me exactly what I saw. I'm not mentally ill nor do I take any medications or have a history of seeing things, although this wasn't the first time seeing something I couldn't explain in an isolated incident.